Asti was a third-year student at a film college. One day, he invited his two close friends, Pawan and AM, to a park to shoot footage for their final semester project. They originally planned to meet at 7 in the evening, but when Asti arrived at the park, neither of them was there. He tried calling both of them many times, but nobody answered the phone. After waiting for a very long time and becoming exhausted, Asti lay down on a stone bench to rest and unexpectedly fell asleep there alone in the dark park. Much later, Pawan finally arrived and slapped Asti hard to wake him up. At that moment, it was already 8 o'clock in the morning. Soon afterward, AM also showed up. Pawan asked why Asti never answered the phone earlier, but then AM suddenly remembered that she had forgotten her phone at home. From the way they behaved together, it became obvious that Pawan and AM had officially become a couple. In reality, Asti secretly loved AM as well, but because he was too shy and introverted, he never dared to confess his feelings to her. Because of that, Asti always kept his emotions hidden deep inside his heart and never once had the courage to speak honestly. Afterward, the three of them started working on the project together. Asti wanted to film the natural scenery of the park in order to show the harmony between humans and nature. However, during the filming process, Pawan not only refused to help, but even used the camera tripod to poke Asti from behind as a joke. He laughed loudly and claimed that he was only playing around with him. Asti chose to ignore Pawan's behavior and continued filming quietly. But only a short time later, Pawan deliberately embarrassed Asti again in front of AM. He criticized Asti's idea of filming landscapes, saying it was boring and ordinary. Then he suggested changing the project to filming people exercising in the park instead. AM thought Pawan's idea sounded interesting and agreed with him immediately. Hearing that, Asti stayed silent, handed the camera over to Pawan, and stepped aside without saying a single word. Pawan grabbed the camera and began filming old people exercising in the park while joking around carelessly. After getting bored, he turned around to give the camera back to Asti. However, at that moment, he noticed Asti staring deeply at AM with loving eyes. Feeling jealous and irritated, Pawan angrily shouted out Asti's old childhood nickname in front of everyone. It was a humiliating name that classmates had given Asti when he was still in elementary school. AM became curious and wanted to know the story behind that strange nickname. Ignoring Asti's desperate attempts to stop him, Pawan began telling the embarrassing story from Asti's past. When Asti was young, his classmates often bullied him by poking him from behind. Every time that happened, Asti became so frightened and nervous that he accidentally wet his pants. Because of those incidents, the cruel nickname followed him throughout his childhood and caused him deep emotional pain. Asti became extremely insecure and never dared to hold his head up proudly in front of other people again because of the constant humiliation. Now, hearing Pawan bring up those painful memories, once again right in front of the girl he secretly loved made Asti feel completely ashamed. Unable to endure the humiliation any longer, Asti lied and said he was tired and wanted to go home first. Even then, Pawan continued following him and laughing, accusing Asti of not knowing how to take a joke. At that exact moment, a bicycle suddenly rushed toward them at high speed. Pawan quickly stepped backward to avoid it, but accidentally smashed his head against a tree nearby. The camera also fell heavily onto the ground. Furious after getting hurt, Pawan angrily picked up an object near the tree and threw it toward Asti. Only after it landed on the ground did they realize what it truly was. The object was actually part of a shrine used to worship a spirit beneath the tree. Realizing he had accidentally desecrated something sacred, Pawan panicked and immediately blamed Asti for the incident, demanding that Asti apologize instead. Asti insisted that he had done nothing wrong, and the two started arguing intensely. In the middle of the argument, Pawan suddenly cursed Asti, shouting that he hoped Asti would get hit by a truck and die. None of them realized that this curse would soon lead to horrifying consequences. Eventually, the three friends separated unhappily. However, unknown to them, the camera had recorded everything that happened. Later that night, AM sent a message to Pawan and asked whether he was still angry. Pawan replied that he was not angry, but only hoped that Asti would think more carefully before speaking or acting in the future. A short while later, Asti suddenly created a group chat and sent the recorded video into it. He explained that he planned to edit the footage into a final project to submit to their professor. After that, Pawan called AM through video chat to discuss whether they should make a separate version of the project by themselves. Although AM did not fully understand why, she still agreed with Pawan's decision. Time quickly passed until Monday morning, when the teacher asked each student group to present their project in front of the class. Everyone waited for Asti, but he never appeared. Growing nervous, Pawan quickly sent him a message asking when he would arrive at school. Strangely, Asti did not reply for a long time. Eventually, it became Pawan and AM's turn to present, so they nervously carried their own edited version of the project to the front of the classroom. At that moment, the teacher's phone suddenly rang. While she stepped outside to answer the call, Pawan anxiously continued messaging Asti, asking where he was and why he still had not arrived yet. Unexpectedly, Asti finally sent a reply saying, "I'm already here." A few seconds later, the classroom door slowly opened. Pawan immediately looked up, expecting Asti to walk inside. But instead of Asti, the teacher returned to the room with a pale and serious expression on her face. She told the class to sit down and then announced shocking news. Asti had died earlier that morning while riding his motorcycle to school. A large truck failed to stop and crashed directly into him, killing him instantly at the scene of the accident. However, the ghost of Asti still seemed unwilling to let Pawan go. When he finally woke up from unconsciousness, he was shocked to find himself lying in a hospital bed. Sitting beside him was his girlfriend, AM, who had apparently been there for a long time. Tears streamed down her face as she told him that Asti's spirit would never bother them again. Then she handed him her phone and showed him a horrifying news article. The article reported that the school bus carrying students back from a camping trip had suffered a terrible accident. The brakes failed, causing the vehicle to plunge into a deep ravine and overturn violently. Strangely, not a single student had boarded that bus. The reason was the terrifying incident that had taken place in the computer room the previous day, leaving every student traumatized and hospitalized from fear. At that moment, Pawan and AM finally realized the truth. All the supernatural events they had experienced were never acts of revenge. Asti's spirit had only been trying to warn everyone about the tragic accident that was about to happen. Sadly, his kindness had been misunderstood as hatred and vengeance. It was also revealed that the monk had actually been speaking to Asti's ghost the entire time. Remembering the moments they had once shared together, Pawan realized Asti had always been a cheerful and kind-hearted young man. Someone like him could never intentionally hurt his friends, even after death. In the end, they understood that the most terrifying thing in the world was not ghosts or demons, but human indifference. And the most beautiful thing was a friendship strong enough to cross the boundary between life and death. Late at night, a boy named Anong secretly sneaked into the school campus. He was immediately caught by the old security guard standing at the gate. Since his older brother was busy preparing recruitment activities for their club, Anong wanted to help. However, the guard refused to let him enter and harshly pushed him away, claiming it was already too late at night. Just as the phone on the guard's desk began ringing, Anong quickly took the opportunity to dash into the school grounds. He knew the guard had an injured leg and would never be able to catch him. As expected, the old man only shouted angrily from behind while Anong disappeared into the darkness of the campus without looking back. The following morning was orientation day for the freshmen, and every club on campus was busy preparing recruitment booths. Anang's older brother, Nat, belonged to a tic-tac-toe club led by a student named Aji. Besides them, there were two girls in the club, Nook and One. Although neither of them truly cared about the game, they had joined simply to stay close to the boys they secretly admired. Including Anang, the club only had 5 members in total, making them look insignificant compared to the energetic dance and music clubs nearby. Aji stared at their empty recruitment booth with visible disappointment. He had worked incredibly hard to establish the club and could not bear the thought of watching it fail so quickly after finally becoming official. Seeing the gloomy atmosphere, the two girls suggested decorating the booth to make it more attractive to incoming freshmen. Since nobody had a better idea, the group immediately agreed and began preparing that same night. However, before they could even begin working properly, the security guard suddenly appeared and loudly ordered everyone to leave because the school gates were about to be locked. When Nook tried to plead with him, the guard shoved her so hard that she fell onto the ground. Furious at what he had seen, Aji nearly attacked the old man, but Nat managed to stop him before things escalated into violence. Still angry, the guard stormed away and switched off the school's main electrical circuit, instantly plunging the activity room into complete darkness. While the students from other clubs began leaving the campus, Aji's group decided to remain behind so they could finish preparing for the recruitment event the next morning. They continued decorating in darkness while talking about rumors surrounding the security guard. People said he had once been a soldier and was hired because his frightening appearance scared away troublemakers who used to invade the school. By the time they finally finished their work, it was already deep into the night. As they carefully approached the school gate, they saw the security guard sitting nearby, polishing a dagger while drinking strong alcohol. Terrified, the group immediately hid behind a wall. Moments later, 2 other students walked out after finishing their own decorations and were slapped and shoved out of the gate by the guard. Witnessing the scene filled everyone with anger and fear, but nobody dared to confront him. Aji then suggested they simply stay overnight inside the school and hide near the closed swimming pool area since it was the farthest place from the gate. The others quickly agreed, believing the injured guard would never bother walking all the way there to check on them. Once they arrived at the swimming pool, the 2 girls entered the changing room to call home and talk privately about their crushes. Meanwhile, the boys broke open a snack cabinet near the pool so everyone could have something to eat. Soon afterward, the entire group sat by the edge of the pool laughing, talking, and eventually jumping into the water to play together happily. None of them realized that danger was silently surrounding them. Above the pool stood a construction scaffold with a heavy metal cutting machine placed carelessly near the edge. While Aji climbed up intending to perform a dramatic dive, Anang mischievously shook the scaffold from below, completely unaware of the horrifying consequences that could follow from his careless actions. Although no accident happened immediately, the danger remained everywhere. Hidden at the bottom of the pool was a wooden board covered with sharp nails. Fortunately, Aji narrowly avoided stepping on them when he jumped into the water. Later, Anang discovered the electrical room and decided to turn on the colorful underwater pool lights to create a more exciting atmosphere. At the same time, Aji pulled Nook up onto the scaffold, insisting on teaching her how to dive. Terrified, she clung tightly to the metal bars, causing the unstable structure to shake violently. Then Aji suddenly let go and jumped into the water. That final movement caused the heavy cutting machine above them to fall directly toward the edge of the pool. At the exact same moment, Anang switched the main electrical system back on. Instantly, the cutting machine dragged a connected electrical outlet into the swimming pool. A deadly current spread through the water within seconds. In a horrifying instant, 4 young lives were electrocuted and killed. Their burned bodies floated lifelessly on the surface of the pool. Before Anang could even process what had happened, the security guard arrived at the scene. Because of his injured leg, he accidentally stumbled into the scaffold structure, causing massive metal poles to collapse onto him. Sharp steel bars pierced straight through his body, killing him instantly. Horrified beyond words, Anang fled into the electrical room and hid there trembling in fear. Meanwhile, the spirits of the dead students had no idea they were already dead. Their souls continued wandering through the school as though nothing had happened. They believed the security guard's ghost was chasing them, completely unaware that they themselves had already become ghosts trapped between life and death inside the dark and silent campus. Eventually, Nat and One found Anang inside the electrical room, crying uncontrollably while apologizing over and over again. Only then did they finally realize the horrifying truth. Their deaths had happened so suddenly that their souls refused to accept reality. Everything afterward had merely been the final lingering actions of spirits unable to move on from the unfinished moments of their lives. In the end, after feeling the presence of his dead friends around him, Anang collapsed onto the cold floor and tearfully begged for forgiveness. He apologized repeatedly as though trying to accompany his friends through the final part of their journey. Nobody knew what terrifying fate awaited him afterward. And with that, the haunting horror story finally came to an end.